close your eyes and let the winds guide you to a land of ancient wonder. Tonight we journey alongside Aelith, an elf of quiet courage, as they step into the heart of a glowing volcano, seeking the fabled Fireflower, a flame of healing and life. With every step, the whispers of the earth and the heartbeat of molten stone weave a tale of trials, wisdom, and the balance between fire and hope. Let the warmth of this story carry you gently into a world of dreams and peace. The winds were a whisper against the forest canopy, carrying with them the scent of ash and stone, a promise of distant, dangerous lands. In the heart of an ancient woodland, a lone figure moved with silent purpose, slipping between shadow and moonlight. This was Aelith, an elf of quiet renown, known for seeking that which others feared to find. Tonight, their gaze was fixed beyond the trees, toward the volcanic peaks, where the sky turned red as embers and the earth itself trembled with hidden power. Stories of a fabled garden had reached Aelith's ears. Tales of a place where flowers of pure flame bloomed amidst blackened soil and molten rock. The Fireflower, rare and legendary, was said to hold healing powers beyond mortal comprehension. Its petals could soothe any pain, mend broken flesh, and revive even the frailest of hearts. Yet, the Fireflower was more than just a healer's treasure. It was a guarded secret, watched over by a being as ancient as the mountains themselves, a dragon known as Ignithar. Aelith's steps were guided by both curiosity and need. Someone close to them, a cherished friend, had been taken ill by a mysterious ailment, one that defied the knowledge of the elven healers. The Fireflower's magic was their only hope, a spark of light in a world where darkness seemed to close in with every sunset. And so, Aelith ventured forth, knowing the path ahead would be treacherous, knowing too that the guardian of the garden would not yield its secrets easily. Days stretched into nights, and nights into dawns, as Aelith crossed lands foreign and wild. Forests gave way to barren plains, where even the sturdiest plants shrank from the scorching sun. Deserts sprawled under starlit skies, and mountains rose like stone giants, their peaks lost in clouds thick with ash. Each step was heavier than the last, and the air itself began to hum with a strange energy, vibrating with the primal heartbeat of the volcanoes nearby. As Aelith climbed higher, the landscape transformed. The gentle green of valleys vanished, replaced by dark, cracked earth, where steam rose in ghostly wisps and sulphur hung thick in the air. The world around was silent, save for the occasional rumble of magma shifting far below. Here, every breath was tinged with fire, and every shadow seemed to watch with wary eyes. On the final night before reaching the volcanic peaks, Aelith rested beneath a twisted tree, its bark charred black from old lava flows. They closed their eyes, Yet sleep came only fitfully, haunted by flickering visions of flames and scales, of a voice that rumbled like distant thunder. The tales of Ignithar weighed heavily in Aelith's mind. The dragon was said to be older than the mountains themselves, a creature who had seen the world's fires both ignite and fade. It was whispered that Ignithar could sense intent, discerning friend from foe with a mere breath. As dawn broke in hues of crimson and gold, Aelith resumed their journey. The path grew steeper, jagged rocks jutting out like the teeth of some sleeping beast. At last, they reached the summit of the outer peaks, standing upon a ledge overlooking a great valley shrouded in shadow and mist. In the center, veiled by sulphurous fog, lay the garden of fireflowers. Their glow pulsed like living embers, a garden of stars nestled in the dark, breathing heart of the volcano. But Aelith was not alone. A shadow moved across the valley, cast by massive wings that blocked out the light of the rising sun. The air grew warmer, then blistering, as a presence drew near. A deep, rolling growl echoed across the ledge, vibrating through the rocks and into Aelith's bones. And then, through the smoke and heat, a pair of burning eyes emerged, watching with the intensity of 1,000 smouldering coals. Ignithar. The dragon's voice, rough and slow as shifting stone, reached Aelith's ears like the rumble of distant thunder. "Elf," it said, a note of ancient suspicion lacing the single word. "Why have you come to my garden?" Aelith met the dragon's gaze, feeling the weight of centuries in those eyes. They knew that words alone would not sway this creature. Ignithar did not guard the garden out of idle habit. There was purpose, a purpose older than any tale that had reached elven ears. Here, at the edge of the garden, Aelith stood at the threshold of fire and mystery, a test of resolve unfolding before them. They took a steady breath, preparing to answer a question not only with words, but with the very essence of their heart. The dragon's eyes bore into Aelith, their glow fierce, unwavering, as if piercing through flesh to read the heart. Aelith stood motionless, feeling the weight of the ancient creature's scrutiny. Ignithar's presence was immense, filling the air with a palpable heat that pulsed in time with the distant rumblings of the volcanic earth. "I seek the Fireflower," Aelith said at last, their voice steady though their heart raced. "I seek it to heal one who suffers, a life dear to me." A low growl rumbled from Ignithar, resonating with such power that the rocks beneath Aelith's feet trembled. The dragon's mouth opened, revealing rows of teeth like gleaming swords. Yet there was no immediate violence in the creature's gaze, only a deep, unreadable intensity. "You speak of suffering," Ignithar murmured, his voice like stone, grinding on stone. "Do you think you are the first to come here, pleading for the Fireflower? Many before, you have spoken of suffering, of love, of need, and many have tried to take what was not meant for them." Aelith felt the weight of the dragon's words. They had heard tales of treasure hunters and those driven by greed, but they were neither. Still, to stand before Ignatha and claim worthiness felt like a challenge against an ancient force. A test that could not be passed with mere conviction alone. "I come with a true heart," Aelith replied, their gaze unwavering. "Not for wealth or power, but for life itself. I do not seek to rob your garden, only to save what might be lost." Ignathar watched, silent, his gaze calculating and fierce. Finally, he spoke, each word heavy with meaning. "If you would enter my garden, you must prove your heart worthy of the gift you seek," the dragon declared. "These flowers are not mere tokens of power. They are life born of fire, creations that must be earned through understanding and sacrifice." With a sweep of his massive claw, Ignathar gestured to the valley below, to the shadows and sulphurous clouds that masked the Fireflower's radiant glow. The dragon's voice rumbled once more, filling the air like a storm. "3 trials await you," he said, a note of solemnity in his tone. "Trials to test not only your courage, but the very essence of your spirit. The first trial will be one of fire, to test your resolve. The second will be of wisdom, to test your understanding. And the third," Ignathar's eyes narrowed, burning brighter than the sun at its fiercest, "will be a trial of the heart. Only if you pass all 3 shall you enter the garden." Aelith felt a chill run through them, though the air was thick with heat. Yet there was no hesitation. "I accept," they said simply, feeling the truth of their words settle like a weight within their chest. The dragon's gaze softened, though only slightly, a gleam of something almost akin to respect flickering in his eyes. He inclined his head, his wings casting immense shadows across the landscape as he shifted his gaze toward a narrow path leading down into the valley. "Begin then," he rumbled. "Your first trial awaits. Go to the Valley of Fire, where rivers of molten rock flow freely, and cross to the other side without turning back." The path, as Aelith peered down at it, twisted between rivers of lava that glowed in the dimness, their heat casting an eerie light on the rocks. Each step forward would be a dance with death itself, a test not merely of bravery, but of sheer endurance against an element that could consume them whole. Steeling themselves, Aelith descended. The heat intensified with each step, an all-encompassing force that seemed to strip away their defenses, leaving nothing but raw will to press forward. Sweat beaded on their skin, their breath coming in sharp, shallow gasps. The rivers of molten lava hissed and bubbled on either side, daring Aelith to misstep, to falter even for a moment. But as they walked, a strange calmness settled within. Each step was a heartbeat, each breath a steady reminder of the life they sought to save. They thought of their friend, of their laughter, their kindness, their voice. These thoughts became a shield, a force that protected against the biting heat, lending Aelith the strength to keep moving. At last, after what felt like hours, Aelith reached the end of the valley. Their clothing singed, their skin flushed from the heat, but unscathed. They paused, looking back only once at the path they had crossed, a path of trial and endurance, where fire had tested and found them worthy. Rising from the shadows above, Ignathaw watched, his eyes unreadable yet approving. He inclined his head once more, a gesture that was almost like a nod. "You have endured the flames," the dragon said, his voice carrying both recognition and a hint of respect. "But the flames are only the beginning. Rest now and prepare yourself. The second trial awaits, a test of wisdom, and one that shall reach into the very core of your understanding." Aelith nodded, feeling the weight of the journey yet to come, but also a growing sense of purpose. They were only at the beginning of the dragon's trials, yet something within them felt strengthened, fortified by the fire they had passed through. They were ready for what lay ahead, knowing that the next trial would demand not just strength, but the keen insight of their mind. Aelith awoke to the chill of dawn, the volcanic air cooler in the quiet hours before the sun could spread its fierce heat across the land. The memory of the fiery valley lingered, a reminder of the strength required to reach this point. But as Aelith rose and prepared to continue, they sensed another challenge ahead, one that would demand more than resilience. Ignathaw's words echoed in their mind, a test of wisdom, a trial of understanding. A rumbling filled the air, deep and resonant, and Aelith turned to find Ignathaw watching from the shadow of an enormous boulder. The dragon's eyes held the steady glow of molten embers, and his expression was both patient and piercing. "Your next trial," Ignathaw intoned, his voice rippling through the air like distant thunder, "lies within the ancient caverns to the east." He gestured with a massive claw toward a dark opening in the mountainside, an entrance that seemed to swallow all light. There, you will encounter echoes of old wisdom, voices that have lingered in the stone since time immemorial. Listen well, for the caverns test not only your understanding, but the clarity of your heart. Aelith took a steadying breath, their gaze following the dragon's indication. The cavern entrance loomed, its mouth dark and uninviting, yet it seemed to draw them forward, as if whispering secrets too ancient to resist. Without another word, they began their descent, feeling Ignathaw's eyes on their back, a watchful presence, both judge and guardian. The air grew cool as Aelith entered the cavern, the light from outside fading into a murky twilight. Shadows clung to the walls and the silence was thick, a stillness that carried an almost sacred weight. Each step echoed faintly, the sound bouncing off unseen walls and disappearing into the darkness. Then, from the depths, a voice emerged, a low whisper, rough and ancient, as though the stones themselves had been granted speech. "To heal is to understand," the voice murmured, carrying a tone of both riddle and warning. "What is given freely is not always earned. What price would you pay for the gift of life?" Aelith stopped, listening intently. The question hung in the air, elusive and layered. What price? They had not considered cost, only the need that drove them, the life they sought to save. But now, standing in this ancient cavern, they sensed a truth beyond their own purpose. A truth that spoke to the balance of nature and the power of choice. "I would pay what is necessary," Aelith answered, their voice steady. "For a life dear to me, I would give anything." The cavern was silent for a heartbeat. Then a soft, sorrowful whisper wound through the air, as if from another voice, older and wearier. "Life and death are bound, elf. In seeking to save one, you may harm another. Healing is not only a gift, but a responsibility. Do you understand this?" Aelith's breath caught. The question touched a deeper chord, one that resonated with memories of their own people, of lives intertwined, each action creating ripples that touched others. They bowed their head, considering carefully before speaking. "I understand," they replied, the words feeling heavier with each syllable. "Healing is not to be taken lightly. To heal one, I must be prepared to serve all, to protect the balance." A soft light began to glow on the cavern walls, illuminating inscriptions carved in languages older than even Ignithar. Each symbol told a story of life, of loss, of sacrifice. As Aelith reached out, their fingers grazing the ancient carvings, a vision formed before them, a phoenix, fiery and radiant, bound in chains of obsidian. The image faded, and the voice in the cavern spoke again, this time stronger, as if satisfied. "Your final trial awaits. Seek the phoenix bound in chains, and release it from captivity. Only by doing so shall you prove that your understanding reaches beyond mere words." The air shifted, and Aelith found themselves back at the cavern's entrance, standing under the open sky. Ignithar awaited them, his gaze intense, a silent question lingering in his fiery eyes. "The cavern has accepted your answer," Ignithar observed, nodding slightly. "Now you must face the last trial. Follow the path to the Phoenix's hold, where a creature of fire and rebirth awaits your aid. Only those who act with true compassion can free it." Aelith followed Ignithar's gaze to a narrow path winding up the mountain, lined with scorched stones and flickering with an eerie reddish glow. The journey to the Phoenix's hold was steep, and with each step the air grew hotter, charged with an electric energy that pricked at Aelith's skin. At last, they reached a high plateau, where an immense bird ablaze with fire lay bound in thick obsidian chains. The Phoenix's eyes met Aelith's, filled with a suffering as old as the mountains. its flames dimmed by the cold weight of the chains. It let out a mournful cry, its voice like embers caught in the wind. Aelith approached slowly, their hands outstretched, feeling the heat of the phoenix's flame, a reminder of the fireflowers they sought. The chains were cold against the bird's warmth, absorbing its power and leaving it weakened. Carefully, Aelith began to unbind the chains, each link stubborn and heavy, as though infused with the very essence of darkness. With every chain removed, the phoenix's fire grew brighter, its feathers regaining their radiant glow. Finally, with the last chain cast aside, the phoenix rose, spreading its wings in a blaze of orange and gold, filling the plateau with brilliant light. Aelith stepped back, watching as the phoenix circled above, its cry echoing with gratitude. In its eyes, Aelith saw a silent acknowledgement, a bond forged through compassion and shared purpose. The bird vanished into the sky, leaving only the faintest hint of ash in its wake. When Aelith turned, Ignathar awaited, his gaze softened, the fierce scrutiny replaced by something akin to respect. "You have proven your heart," the dragon rumbled, his voice quieter, almost gentle. "The fireflowers are not merely blooms. They are born from this mountain's heart, from sacrifice and understanding. Only those who honor that truth are permitted to enter." With a solemn nod, Aelith understood that the trials had not been tests to conquer, but lessons to embrace. They had faced fire, wisdom, and compassion, each revealing a truth greater than themselves. As Ignathar gestured to the valley below, where the fireflowers glowed softly under an ashen sky, Aelith took a deep breath, knowing they had earned the right to enter this sacred garden. Aelith descended into the valley with a sense of reverence, each step measured and deliberate. The air here was thick with the scent of ash and ember, the sky a smoky veil that shrouded the world in a dusky twilight. As they reached the valley floor, the landscape transformed into an otherworldly realm where the earth seemed to breathe, glowing faintly with the fire that pulsed just below the surface. The fireflowers lay scattered across the valley, delicate yet resilient, their fiery petals flickering like the last embers of a great blaze. Each flower burned with a quiet intensity, casting a warm light that softened the dark volcanic rock around it. The flowers seemed to move in rhythm, a gentle swaying that mirrored the unseen heartbeat of the earth, as if responding to a silent melody only they could hear. As Aelith approached, a hushed awe settled over them. Each petal was a flame, yet the fire did not burn with the rage of an uncontrolled blaze. Instead, it was a flame of life, gentle, sustaining and filled with purpose. Aelith could feel the flower's warmth as they knelt beside it, sensing a power that went beyond mere healing. This was life itself, a fragile beauty preserved in fire and light, a reminder of the balance they had promised to honor. Ignathar's presence loomed nearby, a silent guardian as he watched Aelith with a measured gaze. His eyes, though fierce, held a depth of wisdom that spoke of ages past and battles long forgotten. "This garden," he murmured, his voice soft yet resonant, "was not born of mere chance. It is my sanctuary, a place where fire and life coexist in harmony, sustained by the mountain's heart and my own vow." Aelith looked up, meeting the dragon's gaze. "You created this garden?" they asked, their voice filled with wonder. Ignathar inclined his head slowly, his expression shadowed by memories. "Long ago," he replied, his tone tinged with both pride and sorrow. "It was born from my tears, molten with the weight of a sorrow so ancient it cannot be named. These flowers are a part of me, a testament to the bond I hold with the earth and its fire. I guard them, for they are my legacy, as fleeting and delicate as the flames they carry." Aelith listened, feeling the weight of Ignathar's words settle upon them like a mantle. The fireflowers were more than simple blossoms. They were fragments of the dragon's soul, a sacred gift born of sacrifice and resilience. Aelith understood now that this was not merely a garden. It was a living memory, a place where the essence of Ignathar had found solace and purpose. "You may take a single fireflower," Ignathar continued, his voice solemn. "But heed this warning. The flower's magic is bound to this soil. Once removed, its powers will begin to fade unless preserved in volcanic earth. Use it wisely, for its light is a fragile one." With a nod of understanding, Aelith knelt beside a fireflower, their fingers hovering just above the bloom. They could feel the pulse of life within it, the warmth that radiated from its heart. Reverently, they cradled the flower, careful not to disturb the earth around its roots as they lifted it. The fireflower seemed to glow brighter in their hands, its flame flickering with an energy that felt almost alive. As Aelith rose, Ignathar's gaze softened, a glimmer of approval in his eyes. "You have passed through fire and proven yourself worthy," the dragon said. "Remember the lessons you have learned here, elf. This garden, these flames, they are not merely things to be taken. They are part of a greater balance, one that asks for respect and care." Aelith bowed, feeling the weight of Ignathar's words settle within them like an ember, glowing quietly. "I understand, Ignathar," they said. "This is more than a gift. It is a responsibility. I will honor it." The dragon inclined his head, a rare expression of trust flickering across his fierce visage. "Go then, and may your path be guided by the fire you carry." With one last look at the garden, Aelith turned and began the ascent out of the valley. The fireflower held close, its light casting a gentle glow against the darkened path. As they climbed, they felt the presence of Ignathar fading into the shadows, his watchful eyes receding. Yet they knew that the dragon's spirit would always linger in that sacred place. bound forever to the earth and flame. The journey back to their village was long, but Aelith travelled with a sense of purpose, each step taken with a new understanding of the delicate threads that bound life together. When at last they arrived, weary but resolute, they prepared a vessel of volcanic soil, placing the Fireflower within it. Its glow seemed to brighten, a soft warmth filling the room, as if acknowledging the land from which it had come. Aelith knelt beside their friend, offering the Fireflower's warmth and light. The gentle glow wrapped around the ailing figure, infusing them with a radiant energy, a healing warmth that chased away the shadows of illness. As the Fireflower's light faded, its petals slowly closed, its purpose fulfilled. Yet a single ember remained, a flicker of life that would not be extinguished, a reminder of the dragon's gift and the journey that had brought them here. And far away, in the valley of ash and ember, Ignathar watched the night sky, content in the knowledge that his legacy had found a worthy bearer. The garden of fireflowers remained, a sanctuary of life and flame, preserved by the silent vow of a dragon who understood the beauty of sacrifice and the power of trust. Days passed since Aelith returned to the village, the memory of the journey lingering like a dream, half wrapped in shadow and light. The Fireflower, nestled in volcanic soil, had faded to an ember after healing their friend, its petals curled inward, resting like a heart that had finished its beat. But its warmth lingered in the small vessel, a gentle glow that reminded Aelith of Ignathar's fire-touched valley and the lessons learned there. The village healer marveled at the recovery of Aelith's friend, the illness banished as if washed away by some primordial force. A quiet awe settled over the people, who knew only whispers of the ancient powers Aelith had encountered. Yet Aelith spoke little of the dragon, of the trials, or of the Fireflower. Some things they understood were not meant for words, but lived in the silent places within one's soul, where memory met mystery. One evening, as dusk softened the edges of the world, Aelith sat alone on a hillside, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The village lay quiet behind them, wrapped in the gentle hum of evening songs and the comforting smells of hearth fires. And there, under the deepening sky, Aelith felt a stirring in their heart, a cool, distant yet undeniable, a pull that seemed to rise from the very core of the earth. They reached for the small vessel, still cradling the Fireflower's remains. To their surprise, the ember within pulsed once, faint but steady, like the beat of a forgotten song. It glowed brighter in the twilight, casting a soft light that shimmered against the encroaching dark. In that moment, Aelith understood. The Fireflower's essence was not extinguished. It was only dormant, awaiting a time when it would be needed again. They could feel the faint pulse of Ignathar's spirit within it, a presence both distant and near. as if the dragon's wisdom had bound itself to the flame. The Fireflower was a reminder, a parting gift, a fragment of life that could endure beyond death if only one honored its memory. With a steady hand, Aelith lifted the vessel, holding it toward the horizon where the first stars were emerging, delicate points of light against a vast indigo sky. The ember flared in response, brighter than ever, and for an instant, Aelith saw in it the whole journey. The valley of fire, the cavern's echoes, the trials and tests that had brought them here. They felt a promise form within, one forged in the heart of that sacred garden they would not forget. The Fireflower's gift was not just healing but a bond, a connection to something far greater than themselves. A reminder of the delicate balance between fire and life. As long as they carried this memory, they knew the Fireflower's light would remain, even if only as a whisper within their soul. Just then, a breeze swept over the hill, gentle but with a warmth that carried a faint scent of ash and embers, as if Ignathar's spirit lingered in the twilight air. Aelith closed their eyes, feeling the presence of the dragon one last time, a silent farewell from a being as ancient as the mountains, bound to the earth but free in spirit. They lowered the vessel, the ember within dimming once more, its light soft and steady. Aelith would return it to the village, to keep safe until the Fireflower's gift was needed again. A reminder to their people of the mysteries that lay beyond their world and the ancient powers that watched over them. In the days that followed, the Fireflower's tale grew into legend, told and retold by the village storytellers. Yet no words could truly capture the fire's warmth or the dragon's gaze, fierce and wise. Only Aelith knew the full weight of the journey, the trials of fire and trust that had earned them this gift. And so, each time they touched the vessel, feeling its faint warmth, they remembered Ignathar's valley, the sacred garden where life and flame coexisted in fragile harmony. And somewhere, high in the volcanic peaks, the Fireflower garden continued to bloom under ashen skies, watched over by a dragon whose soul burned with a light that would never fade.